Hey guys, and welcome to Planet 13, a safe and judgment-free planet.
Welcome.
Here, we unlock different conversations and open up opinions on everyday life. I'm Sanaya, this is Brianna, and I would like to introduce personal and professional mentor, sales and marketing consultant, and model manager, Shane.
How are you? That was quite the introduction. Thank you.
No problem. Did I miss anything?
No, I mean, you know what? We could go on a whole long list, but I think you did it very, very well.
Well, it's nice having you here, and I'm really grateful to be in the studio. So for the ones who don't know, I met Shane back in 2021 through a friend of mine, and since then, Shane has been one of my modeling managers. I had a great experience in New York, by the way. You've definitely opened up that modeling for me because that was like one of my first real modeling experiences, so I'm really, really grateful for that.
Awesome.
So what are you up to nowadays? Like, what's new?
I mean, there's a lot new. Obviously, 2021 seems like it was yesterday, but it was actually 3 years ago now, right?
Yeah, it's crazy.
And, we still have the modeling stuff going on. We do different events. We did Miami Swim Week this past year. Although I didn't go to New York Fashion Week this year, I did have quite a few models that were up there working it. So we had a lot of fun with that, coaching them, getting them ready. It's always an interesting environment when you see girls coming in, or guys, but primarily I manage women, when you see them coming in for the first time or just wanting to dabble or learn about the industry, and I wonder if this is for me, and just a few years later, you see this like blooming career, or even if it's just hobbies or you guys are doing it for fun and, making a few dollars here and there, it's really interesting to see how that transpires over time and my involvement in those beginning stages, which I really focus on with the majority of my talent. So I have a lot of fun with that. And as far as what's new, we did a lot of stuff with a tequila brand last year. A lot of fun with that. Of course, every year we do, Irie Weekend. We had a blast this past year. We did it at Giselle. We had Shaggy perform at the event. Flow Rider.
Great event.
You were there. You actually made the recap video.
I saw the videos.
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It was a great time. So, I just try to stay busy. Obviously, I have my professional businesses. Not that the modeling industry isn't professional. Don't take that the wrong way. But I mean, like my corporate environment type business with my marketing consulting. I did take on a new client last year as a mentor, which I haven't really done officially in an official capacity for quite some time. So a lot of big success with that. And 2024, just, moving forward, opening a couple new businesses, doing a lot of stuff in AI right now.
Nice.
Which never thought I would kind of get into. But for those of you that know me, I was also really hesitant about social media in the beginning. I hated it. But it became a necessary thing for business. So now I figured, AI starting, this is going to be a necessary thing for business, whether we like it or not. So I did jump on it pretty early, and that's kind of what I've been focused on now.
Okay, so you have a lot going on now, but I want to take it back from the beginning. I want my audience to really get to know you.
Let's do it. Very transparent.
Let's start from the beginning. Where were you born and raised, and how was your upbringing?
Interesting story. So I was actually born here in Florida, which a lot of people don't know. They think I'm just from New York. But my mom did have me here in Florida, although I have a lot of family from New York. So we would, travel back and forth for the seasons. So the majority of the time here, I grew up for a good part of my life in the Carroll City and, Miramar area.
Yeah.
Not the, certainly not the environment I live in today.
Yeah.
It was very, very different. It was a very tough, area to be, especially back then. But I think it gave me a certain level of, character and work ethic to
For sure.
to kind of add to my success today. And then we went up north. We would go between South Jersey, like in the Wildwood, Cape May area, and then in New York. So I did a lot of traveling back and forth, through the seasons. So I'd work in the like the boardwalk and stuff up in South Jersey during the summertime to come back down here for school. So it was I had a kind of a crazy childhood for the most part. My mom was a single mom. Father was an addict. And, she really did everything she possibly could to teach me to be a man. And it was a consistent struggle all through my, teen years. Got into a lot of trouble as a kid. Some of the stuff I won't necessarily admit to. But I always had a specific drive. We lived in my mom's car when I was 12 years old. We got kicked out, and it was a very... It was one of those experiences in life that fundamentally changes who you are.
Yeah, for sure.
And shortly after that, I got my first job at 12, washing dishes at Arrowhead Deli in Davie, Florida. I'll never forget. And at 13, we went up north for the summertime, and you had to be 14 to work. So Marty and Brian, I love you if you ever watch this. I actually made a fake birth certificate so I could get a job at 13. I did get caught halfway through the summer, and they were so impressed at that time that they said, you know what, you're one of the best employees we have here, and you took such an initiative.
Right.
When you turn 14, come back, and you'll have a job for as long as you want. So I worked there every summer for until I got in serious trouble until about 18, 19 years old.
Okay, so you always had that drive, apparently.
I want to say yes, but I don't think it's one of those things that you're kind of born with. I think it's a combination of two things. I think the circumstances that you grow up in and what information is fed to you. You know, one thing I did notice a lot growing up is so many people live with excuse, right? There was always a reason why we couldn't do it, you know? And I was just taught different. My mom, again, was a single mom. She worked 2-3 jobs, nights, didn't matter. And my grandmother was also in my life who worked 2 jobs up until she was, I think 70 years old, right? She's 86 now. So there was no room for excuse. And I was the only man in the house, right? It was my mom, my grandmother, my aunt, my sister, and me.
Oh, wow.
That was
one sibling?
What's that?
One sibling?
I have 2, but my brother wasn't born until I was 13.
Okay.
It was just watching them work and do whatever they had to do to make it in life. There wasn't an option for me not to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
Especially my grandmother, because she was the one that was around me a lot when my mom was working. So it was instilled into me at a very young age that, look, we do whatever we have to do, and that's the end of it. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment, all of us, and literally in the projects, and we did what we had to do. And I see a lot of people these days that do stupid things or make certain types of mistakes just because. And looking back on those experiences, we were hungry. We needed food, and we needed to keep the lights on. So I may have done some stupid things, but it was never just because.
Yeah, it was for a purpose.
You're not necessarily saying that was, always the right thing to do.
But sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I got asked a question once. Do I encourage people to do the wrong thing or break rules or whatever? Because I have been in trouble more than once in my life. And I'll always say no. You're going to do the right thing at every chance you can get. But living in that environment and understanding what it took, right? Understanding the lack of opportunities that I was provided for many reasons, a lot of because of mistakes I had made in my life. I'm not going to tell you not to feed your family, right? Now, I don't think you should be going out hurting people, doing stuff like that. I'm not encouraging that at all. Don't blast me on this one. But at the end of the day, I know how it is firsthand. So, yeah, I did stupid things. I stole drugs. I stole cars. I did a lot of things that I shouldn't have done in life. But I do remember the very first time handing my mother money to pay the bills.
And the way you felt.
I think the first time I handed her a lot of money that I shouldn't have had at that age, I was about 14 years old. And we were up in New Jersey. I'll never forget it. I had my job. And I think this was one of the years where I kind of spent a semester of school there. And I would skip school. I would take a bus from South Jersey to North Jersey to get the train over to the city, right? And I'd go work on a stock floor as a cold caller, opening up stock sales at 14. Not exactly compliant.
At 14.
Then I would take the subway after work down to Spanish Harlem. I had my backpack. I'd fill it with a bunch of substances, okay? And then I would take the whole trip back home. And I remember I don't remember how much it was, but it was a significant amount of money right back then at 14 years old. And my mom's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, where'd you get this from?
Yeah, you're this is not from Gateway 26.
Right.
What's going on here?
What's going on?
I remember the struggle in my mom. I could picture her face right now. I remember that struggle. Should I take this money? Should I tell him no? I remember it. And she was so hesitant, but at the same time, we were living at that point in time with my mom. My brother was born at this point, my sister, and my brother's father, who was worthless as they can be, in a 1-bedroom, we were in someone's attic, basically. Yeah. Living in South Jersey, right? So it got us out of that environment for that period of time. So I can only imagine what she felt at the moment. I know my son did something he wasn't supposed to do to get this. And I was going to a call room, making $1,000 a week at 14. I thought I was rich.
Wow.
And I had gotten some big bonus of $8,000 or $10,000, whatever it was. But yeah, it was crazy. And I'll never forget that look on her face of knowing that she should be telling me, do not do this,
right.
But also thinking my brother, my who was only a year or so old, and my sister, who was, 10 at the time. We're all living in this little,
Right.
shack, basically. How do you make that decision? There's a lot of moments through my life that I remember my mother and my grandmother, their facial expressions, because it told me so much now as an adult, as a father,
Yeah.
what they were or what they could have been experiencing,
It seems like everybody was in survivor mode, so it was just like.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it was, man. The environment today is very different back then. Today there's no excuse not to make money. If you're willing to work, you're willing to make money. Back then, I still believe there was no excuse. If you were willing to work, you could make money. You couldn't sit at home on your computer all day long and make money. You had to go out and do something, and typically hold 2 or 3 jobs. You can literally sit at home now. I just read an article literally yesterday about a guy making almost $400,000 a year, sitting at home working 3 remote jobs. Fantastic for you. Kudos.
Yeah.
We couldn't do that back then.
Yeah.
You had to go get multiple jobs, and that's just what we did. And if there was other ways to make money, as long as it wasn't too insane and the consequences weren't too bad, just give it a shot.
Yeah, I felt
what it was.
that. Okay, so did you always know what you wanted to do in life, or was that something that you kind of just developed throughout the years?
There was a point in my life that I played football in school, and of course I had the dream of being NFL one day, but it wasn't like, oh my God, this is my whole life. I grew up in an environment that you didn't really see past 21, 22 years old. There wasn't anyone around that we knew that didn't end up going to prison or deported or dead. That's just what it was. So to look past early 20s and think one day I'm going to be this, it just wasn't there. It just wasn't there. And a lot of people don't really understand, and thankfully, and if you don't understand that, go home and thank whatever God or higher being you believe in, because it is a very humbling experience once you break out of that and start to realize, well, I can actually have a life. This isn't all it is. I remember when I first started making money and kind of what that felt like, and looking back and having all the friends, tell me things like, you forget where you came from. And I'm like, I don't forget. I remember every day. Okay. Which is why I'm not going back, which is why I still work 80 hours, 100 hours a week, whatever I have to do, so I never had that, oh, one day I want to be, a doctor or a firefighter. Everything I did always was out of necessity. When I sold, I would always had a sales job doing something. I was in the restaurant business. I was a corporate trainer for Darden restaurants. And, I had to make money. That was it. So all the opportunities that I had in life, they were presented and I took advantage of them. That's what it comes down to. When I was in the restaurant business, I got an opportunity to be in title insurance. At that point, I just took advantage of that opportunity. I knew nothing about title insurance. I didn't even know what that was. But it was an opportunity to make some money. He brought me to a meeting, and, there were school teachers there, and one guy was an ex-boxer. And I don't want to say they didn't have the level of intellect I had at that age. They were all older than me for the most part. And they were making $80,000, $90,000 a month. And I'm like, wait a minute. If they're making that money, what am I going to make?
Yeah.
Right? So I, took a leap of faith, got involved, and, from there I went into mortgages and so forth and so on. So everything, even when I got to the mortgage business, I knew nothing about banking. Okay, I had no idea what an interest rate was, nothing. I was a kid with no financial literacy. I got kicked out of high school when I was 16 years old for fighting.
Really?
Defending myself, by the way, but that's another story. Here I am, somebody said to me, what can we do with this 25,000 square foot of space? I bought a bank. I'm like, let's build it. And in a matter of, 2.5 years, we had almost 700 loan officers, right? Wow. That I was personally managing and hiring and training and all this stuff.
Oh, wow.
And then, again, just as time went on, I created industries for myself to work with it. And that's what I've always done.
So I want to touch on the modeling.
Sure, let's go.
So where did the modeling come from? Where was that idea
Love this story because my 2 daughters argue about this all the time. My daughter Gianna will say it was her idea. And then my oldest daughter Devin will say it was her idea.
Okay.
So here's what I actually remember. So Gianna, I'm sorry if you see this. I'm just being honest. We were in the car one summer day, and I think Gianna may have mentioned something, but my daughter at the time was maybe 13. And she's like, Dad, I want to do a beauty pageant. And I'm like, okay. Now, her mom, for those of you who know her, she's not exactly girly. Okay, so this was I knew it was something I had to take on. And during that time, I'm a very hands-on type person. So what do I know about walking in heels or designing dresses or any of this, doing your hair, right? But I'm like, all right, let's give it a shot. Okay. So we go. She does like a little local thing. And me as a father, I'm doing what I'm always doing, which is preparing my daughter for what's to come. And part of that was, hey, you're beautiful, you're gorgeous, you're talented, but just keep in mind, right, that these girls have been doing it, some of them since they're 6 months old. You're 13 and you're just starting. So if you don't win, that just means we're going to try it again.
Yeah, don't be discouraged.
Right? So she won the first one she entered.
Okay.
Wow.
Of course. So I was hoping it to be like a humbling lesson, and she wins, right?
Okay.
So now she's going to go to the national competition. And man, going through that process in the pageant industry, which was very different then than it is now. My daughter's, we're going, this was back in like 2010, right? 14 years ago. Watching the amount of work and preparation that went into these was mind-boggling. Like, I had no idea how much effort and time that a woman needed to just to get ready for the day, okay? Much less compete in a pageant, right?
Yeah.
So understanding the hair and makeup was one part of it. I had to learn, this is going to sound funny because I don't walk in heels. I want to preface that. But I had to learn the fundamental basics of walking in heels because my daughter never walked in heels.
Yeah.
And I had to teach her this. Now, I could have hired a coach. I just didn't like any of them. They just seemed creepy,
Yeah.
So I'll just figure it out myself.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we did that. And then we came to wardrobe. I went to somebody and they were trying to charge me some astronomical number. I designed my daughter's wardrobe and we went and had it custom made, right? So we went to nationals. We had a great time and she had gotten noticed. I started meeting with agents and managers. And the people, maybe I just didn't get the right people, but I will say being in this industry now long enough, there's not a lot of right people, right?
Yeah.
And they were just creepy. They were weird. They were just
Or they just
like,
charge.
I'm sitting there and they're like, the way they're looking at my daughter,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And I just knew I was going to hurt somebody. So I'm like, I called my assistant that day and I said, find out what I need to do to become an agent. So, all right. So we go through this process, open up Santacroce Models with literally the sole purpose of managing my own daughter. And that's how it started.
Wow.
Wow, look at that.
Did very well with it. And then, of course, hey, can you manage my daughter? Can you manage my daughter? Can you manage my daughter? And that's what kind of how it just grew from there. And of course, my daughter did it for about 4 years. She's like, I'm done.
She did.
Just one day, she was just done. Now she's a school teacher, doing fantastic, engaged. So she's doing great. But it stuck around with me. As you know, I'm very big into personal growth as well. So I do teach a lot of them, kind of transitioning from the pageant world into the modeling industry, which is a big thing. Unfortunately, the pageant world this day is not the same. It's very tainted.
Yeah.
So anybody thinking about getting into it, I'm warning you now. Make sure you're with a really good coach because it's a very different environment. But that's kind of where the whole thing started. Really, whatever they need, right? Whether it's in the modeling world or outside of, I'm kind of there as that, that coach, that mentor.
Okay. And do you have any other plans when it comes to your modeling agency, or are you just kind of like?
I always have it, and I always use it in almost any industry I'm in. I do a lot of events, so of course I give the girls the opportunity to work those events and make money and network and connect. And sometimes, I'll have a year where we're just packed with events all year, and sometimes we do one a quarter. So I kind of let that organically do its thing. I don't put a tremendous amount of time into it. I don't market or try to attract new girls to my thing anymore. I'm no longer an agent either. I'm a manager now. Okay. I changed that about 5 years in because it gave me more flexibility and it gave me the ability to really focus on what was the best interest of my client or my talent, who is now my client. As an agency, my client was actually the people paying me for talent.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the difference between an agent and a manager?
So a lot of people don't really know, and there's a technical explanation to what the difference is, but the main difference from my perspective and why I changed is that an agent, when you have a client that's paying you, you're supposed to be doing what's in their best interest. Let's just say a job typically paid $5,000, right? Okay. And then there's a 20% fee. So it costs them $6,000. Well, what they're, you'd strike a deal and say, hey, I would have typically made $1,000. Well, I'm going to give you $2,000, and we're only going to pay the girl $1,500. Yeah. So now the client only has to pay $3,500, right?
Oh, wow.
So now, of course, the agency's making more money because they're paying you a booking fee, and the talent is making less. So I just had a real problem with that. Yeah. A lot of the girls that I started working with early on, They were literally from the ages of like 4 to 16, right? These were kids, and the
Yeah.
parents were trusting me with their children. As a father, I understand what that means.
Mhm.
So I had a real problem with it, and that's why ultimately I ended up changing.
That's understanding because I'm in a few agencies and they do have like the agency fee where they take out money when it comes to your booking. So yeah, that does get annoying.
And again, that's what they're taking out.
Yeah.
Right, so
Which
they
is
may be
true,
paying
exactly.
being paid more, right? So I'm not going to knock agencies because there are a lot of very, very good
Mhm.
ones out there, but there are a lot that, that's their business model. They
Yeah.
got to make as much money as they possibly can. If you sign 100 girls, 10 will do some work, 1 will do well.
Yeah.
That's just reality.
There's definitely a lot of agencies that are out right now that like kind of scam a little bit. Like they'll be like, okay, you could take pictures, but it's gonna be $400, and then you got to pay for this, and you got to pay for that, and then you might get booked. It's not even like guaranteed that you'll get booked. So it's like watching out for people like that too, who just kind of want it for the money and not really for like the right reasons.
When you look at the industry, right? If you have 1,000 girls signed, you're only going to have a few that are really working.
Yeah.
That's always the toughest thing. There's no shortage of beautiful women, right? Or men.
Mhm.
Okay, but there is a massive shortage in work ethic. This industry is tough. It is cutthroat. It is petty. It is spiteful. I mean, this industry is ruthless. And if you don't have someone in your corner helping you navigate that, I could give you 100 stories right now of girls and guys being put in horrible situations because of it. And again, when it comes to the money aspect, a lot of these agencies, they're not really booking real work. So where do they make their cash flow? Selling you something,
Yep.
right? Whether it's a booking service or
Photo shoot.
photo shoots, portfolios, I mean, you name it, training, right? And don't get me wrong, you need some of this stuff, right? You definitely need it. But you should be getting it from professionals, and your agency should not be profiting off of those things for you, right? They should be making money when they book you work, period. Very rarely, unless it's a substantial job, I don't take a fee, right? If somebody's making a few $100s, like, it's yours. You know what I mean? Now, I do have models that I have booked $600,000-$700,000 jobs for. Yes, obviously, I'm going to take my fee at that point. There was a lot of effort and time I put into that. And I will say this: I get contracts all the time because you could send me something. Hey, Shane, have you heard of this agency? Or they sent me this paperwork. What do you think? And when you read the fine print, it's unbelievable. So the new thing is, let me just send out this contract to as many girls as I possibly can. They're going to sign, and hopefully somebody does something. Once they do something, you're locked in with them. Not only with them, but the one I recently saw last week not only locked you in for your contract, 2 years after your contract, with anyone they have done business with or anyone that could be considered a potential client of theirs. That's the country. Like, what do you mean? Right? That's literally anybody could potentially be a client, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And she's stuck. She signed this contract. A lot of them, like a lot of these fashion shows, have somebody there like that. Again, having you sign these contracts, not reading it ahead of time, and that little fine print, and now these girls are locked in. And it happens all the time. So my number one suggestion to someone that is getting into this industry, before you get an agent or work with an agency, get a manager. And it doesn't have to be somebody like me who's been doing this forever. It could be your mother or father. Just somebody to run everything by that's going to take the time to look at it. And it's also great when somebody's reaching out to you. I always hear, is this guy a scam? I'm like, well, just tell them to reach out to your manager.
Yeah.
And right then and there.
Yeah, then they'd be like,
like, yeah, like, we don't really need to speak to your manager, right? A real professional company, when they hear you have a manager, is going to be, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
They're going to be excited because they know that you have some type of training, you have some holding you accountable. They're going to be happy that you have a manager in place.
So outside of your professional life, what are some things that like bring you joy and fulfillment?
We could talk about like being on the water, which
I was going to say traveling.
absolutely. I love being on the water. I don't care where I'm at. Hop on my jet ski or boat and
Nice.
I'm on the water. Like, for me, that is my true stress reliever. But I do as much as I possibly can with my kids. I love to be around my kids. I certainly love to travel. I'm in a great relationship right now. And even if we're just going away for, a weekend or something like that, it's good to just kind of relax
Okay. Is
shut
there any
everything off.
places that you haven't visited yet that's like, I want to visit this place?
Places I haven't been that I really want to go.
Yeah.
Japan is definitely one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I really want to go to Japan. I have a great collection of like real samurai swords that my girlfriend hates, but I just love the story of Japan and the samurai and the people.
I'm trying to go to Hawaii for my birthday.
I definitely want to go to Hawaii. I haven't been to Hawaii. I don't even know why I haven't been. Plenty of
Yeah.
opportunities to go, just never
Right.
gone. But I've been all over the place. You know, I've been to so many places that I never even realized I wanted to go until I actually got there
Yeah.
and realized how amazing it was.
I love traveling. I just love having like those new experiences with different people and just different environment.
Yeah, when I travel too, I get into like I really travel. I don't,
Yeah.
you know, of course I might stay at a resort for safety purposes or whatever, but
Right.
I like to get out and really like
Me
be involved
too.
and like meet the people and
See
eat their
the
food,
culture and
you know,
everything.
and see what it's really about. So
Yeah, I think one of the coolest places for me was definitely Dubai. Like their culture is completely different. So like being in that environment, it was like eye opening. Like wow, this is how people live over here.
Yeah.
very, very different. Dubai is a
Very
very interesting place. And you know, the crime rates are like zero.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
you
one
can-
of the safest countries.
Yeah, you can literally
It's
walk around
crazy.
with $1 million of jewelry around your neck, leave your Lambo door open with keys, and like
Yeah.
there's
What?
no
Yeah.
crime.
My stepdad left his credit card in the taxi, and they were so quick to come back around and like try to drop. Yeah, they don't
Here.
play.
So you live
Yeah.
this.
And there's also a certain level of respect for women that we don't have in this country.
Mhm.
There's a respect for each other that we don't have in this country anymore.
Mm.
So it is. It's not because of over policing. You know, you don't go there and there's just cops everywhere, so you
Yeah.
can't do anything
I
wrong.
was gonna say.
It's an environment. It's a culture that
Yeah.
has been created that I hope spreads. I mean, that's really the best way I can say it.
Right, must be nice.
Yeah, and you know, there are a lot of places in the world that do have that kind of culture where you can go and it could be midnight, you're just walking around like no big deal, and
Yeah.
you don't have that concern.
Mm.
You know, and we've kind of lost that.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I can't walk around Miami by myself
Oh, no.
nowadays.
I mean, I live in Parkland, which is one of the safest cities in the state of
Yeah.
Florida, and we just had a 17-year-old kid jumped, 2 weeks ago,
Well,
just driving. Somebody threw a rock at his car, got out, and 15 kids on a bike got out and just beat him up. So
Crazy.
that's in Parkland. So it is, an unfortunate reality, but
Mhm.
all places will have their bad areas or their bad things that go on, but
Which is why I'm really grateful.
yes, you
Right.
gotta be careful.
So, are you like into like manifesting and stuff like that, or what's your like?
I just talked about this the other day, talking about
Mhm.
manifestation. So I absolutely am, with a caveat. You can't just manifest.
Yeah,
Mm.
definitely.
I don't know if this clip already posted or not on my social media. If it didn't, then it will any day now. You'll see what I'm talking about. But a lot of people think that you can just manifest and it just happens.
It's gonna come to
Right.
you. Yeah,
Yeah.
no.
Just write it
No,
down.
it's
live
part
away.
of the process,
Mhm.
right? And you have to include it, but you can't depend on it.
Yep.
It has to be part of the process. But if you don't create that process, manifestation means nothing.
Yep.
And I think we've gotten to this, just thinking into existence. Good luck. Like, I don't know what else to say.
Yeah,
If you ain't going to put the work in to make it happen, that's it. I mean, manifestation is about seeing the goal and being able to visualize having it
Yes.
and then taking the steps to get there,
Yes.
Yeah.
And when times get tough and hard, and they're going to, because that's the road to success
Mhm.
or failure. It's the same thing, which I also talked about the other day. But it's the same path, and it's extremely difficult. That's when you manifest and remind yourself, I'm going to be sitting in that house. I'm going to be with that person. I'm going to have that job. And that gives you that motivation to keep going. That's really what manifestation is about.
Yeah, I'm a big
For sure.
believer. Like, if you envision it, I feel like you could have it. And it's just all about having the action behind it. Like, you can't just like write it down and be like, I want this car, and then
And
it's
then
gonna
close
come.
it up and
yeah,
never
then-
look back at
yeah.
it. Like, no.
fall out of
And
the
that's what a
sky.
lot of people do,
Yeah.
you
And I'm gonna talk about that on the podcast. I really want to get into like manifesting because I'm really big on manifesting, and I feel like
Yeah, she is.
there's a lot that has changed since I've gotten to manifesting. So yeah.
Have you ever watched the show or read the book, The Secret?
Yes,
Okay.
I have. I read The
Fantastic.
Secret. I'm reading Becoming Supernatural by Dr. Joe Dispenza. I'm really into like manifestation books and like self-healing and all that stuff.
No, listen, manifestation has always, I learned out at probably in my mid-20s. And when you first get into it, I'm a skeptic on everything. So I was like, okay, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
But if you watched, I don't know if it was in the book, 'cause I didn't read the book, The Secret. I watched the
I watched
movie.
it
I was
too.
lazy.
I did both.
Yeah. I hate reading, ironically. I read things that, like, it's really got to interest me or it's
Yeah.
got to be
Yeah.
educational,
Same.
you know? So I didn't think The Secret was that, so I ended up watching the movie. And I remember in the show, they were talking about the red lights,
Mhm.
right? Thinking, like, oh, I'm going to catch it. As soon as you get a red light, like, always get red lights. what happens? You get another red light, another red light, another red light.
Exactly.
You start noticing it.
You start noticing it. So after I watched that, I started doing the green light thing. And if you haven't watched it, watch it. It is very interesting how when you start manifesting the car that you want, the color that you want, oh my God, there is this. It's at the stoplight.
Yep.
And I'm going to tell this is a true story. My girlfriend and I made new vision boards. They're hanging up right beside my bed. And in there,
Same.
I don't even know why I want this car because it's silly, but there's the Tesla Model S Plaid. Matte black, blacked out rims, this beautiful car, right? And even my kids were like, "You've got Ferraris and Lambos and everything. Like Bentley's like, you want a Tesla?" I'm like, just that one. It's just sexy. You know what I mean? And we end up talking about it. I'm like, I'm telling you, I'm going to have that car. But it's got to be that specific one, right? We went to CVS to print these out so we can frame them and hang them up. What do you think pulled in that parking lot?
No way.
Tesla.
The exact, not a Tesla, the exact car, the exact color. It was unbelievable. The Tesla Model S Plaid, matte black, black wheels, black, and with white interior. And here I am holding this freaking poster with that picture. So it was pretty interesting. Manifestation absolutely works.
Yes.
Yeah, I definitely have a story like that too. Like the car that I recently just bought last year, I like wrote it in my journal. I put a picture of it and I was like, I want a brand new car, like same year, red interior. And then the first day I went to go look for a car, I found my car. Like I went to go test drive the car. Everything like, came out good. Prices were good. Everything was great. I ended up literally getting the car that I put in my journal. And I thought that was just like, it was a wow moment.
Look, there's blockers you can put in your brain. Have you read Rich Dad Poor Dad yet?
No,
Robert
but
Kiyosaki?
I did buy my stepdad that book though.
You got to read it. You have to read that book. It's a great book. And one of the things they talk about is saying, I can't. Like growing up, I can't afford it. I can't do that. Take that blocker out. How can I afford it? How can I do it? So when you start asking yourself the right questions, your brain goes to work. How can I get that car? Right? How can I get that job? Your brain goes to work and you start finding a path to get it. But the moment you start saying, I can't make that statement, that's a bold statement, I can't. It shuts down. Your brain, well, I can't do that. There's nothing to talk about, right? So removing those blockers is also a big part of manifestation.
Yeah, like the B word, broke, I don't use that word. Like, so, I never use that word. Even if, like, I would never use that word.
So I don't use poor. Poor and broke are two different things that a lot of people, just like rich and wealthy are two different things. I'll give you an example of both.
Okay.
Being broke, I've been broke in my life many times. I just didn't have the financial means at that moment. Being poor is a mentality, period. And somebody actually commented, I just posted this, I think it was yesterday, the day before, surrounding yourself with successful people will help you find better success, right? And he's like, oh, well, those people don't hang out with poor people and da-da-da. I said, no, you're absolutely right. They don't hang out with poor people. But you can be broke. That doesn't mean you have no potential. It just means you don't have the financial means there. And they will hang out with someone who's broke because they'll see your potential. And you can get involved in those circles, right? But if you're poor, you're the one making this comment on this post, right? I didn't say that to him, right? But that's the reality. It's the mindset.
Yeah.
It's just excuses.
Excuses, because I feel like you could learn anything.
And
it's just
here's another one.
Want to learn.
Absolutely. And then there's a difference between rich and wealthy, right?
Yes.
I think it was Chris Rock that said this. So, love you, Chris Rock. But he said, rich people cash big checks, but wealthy people sign them. Yeah. Which one do you want to be?
Now, do you have any questions for us?
Yeah, tell me a little bit about Planet 13. Where did you guys come up with the name? What's the whole premise behind it?
So Planet 13, the safe space. We go ahead and we travel to Planet 13 and we just talk about all things, spirituality, manifesting, maybe a little girl talk here and there, and basically also sharing our experiences and opinions and everything. And how we came up with Planet 13.
We were like literally at the kava bar one day, like chilling, doing our homework. And honestly, I can't even remember like what we came up with. But once we came up with it, we literally got onto Google Docs and started typing up all of our ideas.
We locked in.
And I was with a friend at the time, and she was like, giving us feedback and like helping us out when it came to the podcast. And she actually texted me like 2 weeks ago, and she was like, "Hey, like, where's the podcast?" This is in November. Like, we've been planning this since November, so it's just been like trials and tribulations and things kind of like But I'm glad we're here now.
Talk about the trials and tribulations, right? Because a lot of people think they want to do something until they kind of get into it, right? So it's March now. You guys started this journey in November, which is still relatively quick, to throw something together and actually be here filming your first episode, right? So talk a little bit about, what was the thought process? What were you guys going through? Some of the things you did to make the steps forward?
I would say like the first thing was just like finding a place. And then once we did find a place, because she did have a studio of her own, it was called 13 Studios.
Yeah.
But some things happen.
Something we'll have a story time later on into the
Girl talk.
seasons.
Yeah.
The girl talk.
With the girl talk. So yeah, some things ended up happening. So then we had to try to find another studio. And there was also just like, I'm the type of person, like, when I do something, I want it to be, like, 100%.
Yeah.
So it was just, like, making sure we have the cameras, the microphones, now we have, like, a set. But before that, we didn't have that. And I wanted to do, like, if we're going to get a couch, are we going to do this? Are we going to get the neon light? Like, I wanted everything to just be set, and it just didn't feel ready yet. And I also had, like, a list of things I wanted to talk about. I wanted to get other people's opinions. Like, I just really wanted to dive deep and take my time. I didn't want to rush anything because I want this to be a consistent thing.
It's a lot of work put into, right?
Yeah.
People don't realize how much you go. Like you said, even just obviously this setup is here for you, but it's just getting this setup alone is a lot, right? What kind of guests can we expect to see on your shows?
I want all kinds of guests. I'll probably put some influencers. I want to put some I do have some athletes that I want to put on here, even like my dance teacher, maybe even my mom in a few episodes. Like, I really want to get different opinions. It depends on what the topic is, but I definitely want to get an opinion, like different opinions on topics.
How controversial are you guys going to get?
Well, Planet 13 is a safe space, so it's all about comfortability and like vulnerability. So we really want that, Yeah. And if it gets a little controversial here and there, it adds to it.
And that's why I ask. Because one thing you said, judgment free, right?
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you bring people onto a show in that environment, they want to just let it loose, right? Which can certainly become controversial at times.
And then for the number 13, the way we came up with the number 13, because I know people are going to be like, why Planet 13? Brianna's birthday is January 13th. Yes. And then my father, who passed away, his birthday is January 3rd. So the 1 and the 3 are very significant. And then for people who don't know, 13 in numerology actually means new beginnings, transformation, and positivity. So
I didn't know that, but 13 is my favorite number.
Really?
It is.
Wow.
Look at that.
Oh, my gosh.
It is, yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Love that.
I just want to thank you for being here. And then if you could just let my viewers know where they could find you and, stay updated on you and your business.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can find me on any social media platform, Shane Santacroce, just my name straight across. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube. You can check out my podcast as well, Make It Happen with Shane Santacroce. We've got a lot of stuff, a lot of fun stuff up there. Check me out, my website, ShaneSantacroce.com. I'll go ahead and let you put that information in the bio. So, reach out, touch base. I'm open to talking to just about anything. So
sounds good. His links will be in the description.
Yes.
But I want to thank you guys for tuning into our first episode. We're definitely going to have way more conversations and way better episodes coming.
Right.
I want to thank you again.
Absolutely.
For
anytime.
Thank you so much.
Like, comment, and subscribe. Comment what you guys want to hear us talk about, and comment what kind of guests you want to see on our show.
Let us know. And we'll see you all next time.
We're out.
Bye.